Hello and welcome back to what is going to be the second part of, I'm not sure how many parts of live, well, I guess sort of live, character generation building, the rigor, part one. Um, I broke these up into a couple of different parts because riggers can be a lot of different people, even more so than your other uh, your other archetypes or roles, or however you want to classify them without saying class, because class is a terrible, terrible word. Um, I got a couple of informational pokes from the Twitch chat where today I'm going to make a antisocial van rigger. The the idea of a van rigger is that you're never actually putting yourself physically at harm. You're doing a lot of things through your drones. And while that's what a lot of riggers do, and a lot of other people who just buy drones because they're cheap and fairly easy to afford, uh, riggers have a not necessarily a habit, but a common thing of using them almost exclusively. Many riggers will forego actual physical combat type skills, that kind of thing, to buy more drones or more skills to support their drones, and often their only combat skill will be gunnery, and it's kind of a mess in that fashion. So to start off, I'm feeling dwarf, so I'm gonna go ahead and rearrange our priorities a little bit here to I don't want to say like a standard, but uh, a fairly normal build where I'm going to start and then come back to things. I went dwarf as a sort of antisocial thing. It's going to make more. Time out for a second. I'm using Hero Lab with which to build said character. At the time of making this video, Hero Lab does not have Rigor 5 or hard targets in it. As such, things from that aren't going to show up in this video to make different choices that you guys can then make later on as you're building it. I'm also going to cut a lot of the Nuyen spending out of this. Like I did for some of the other videos, your average runner gear, things like contacts with vision enhancement, earbuds, data taps, and all that kind of stuff is stuff that every runner should probably end up picking up in one way or another. I'm going to kind of skip past that because it's kind of boring to watch me sit here and spend like 5 minutes adding that stuff in. So I'm just not going to do it. Things like naming your fake synths and that kind of stuff. As a rigger, it is not important which drones you use. So I'm also going to cut probably about 250,000 of this Nuyen and just not spend it on camera. That is stuff that if you guys want, you can get the Hero Lab save file from the video description. You can download that if you have Hero Lab, start building, fine tuning it from there, or the PDF, which will also be in the video description as well, to rebuild it in Chummer for your home games, doing that kind of thing. Then you can pick and choose which drones and how you want them outfitted for this. Part of what we're going to do is, I know if I was a dwarf and socially awkward, I'm probably going to get a anthroform drone that is going to be my face for going around. One, because it sucks being short and being able to reach things off the counter is great. Two, being socially awkward, you're going to want to at least put on a nice face for interacting with things. So that's going to be a large chunk of the character generation money for your just kind of going around and that stuff, um, which I'm not going to spend because it's part of that 250,000 or so for fine tuning that you guys will be able to do on your own. So time in, getting back to it. The the reason I picked my priorities as such is one, as resources. Uh, Riggers have a lot of expensive things they need to buy. There's drones, there's RCCs, there's cyberware, there's more drones, there's equipment for the drones, there's vehicles for supporting the team. It's a lot of stuff. It takes a lot of Nuyen. 9 out of 10 times, I will pick resources A when I'm going to build a rigger. You can get away with it on resources B if you're doing a more driver-oriented rigger or um, more focused rigor, but that is your mileage. You may do with it as you please. The skills, I went with the skills B. There will be a lot of things you are expected to as a rigger to pick up. Uh, some pilot skills, some gunnery skills. You're probably going to want automotive or industrial mechanic in there so that you can interact with things and fix your stuff. Um, so I picked up that group. It's it'll all get spent fairly quickly, and you'll still want more things, but that's all. I decided to make this guy a dwarf to kind of go on the antisocial angle because when you stare at crotches all day, it kind of makes it a little interesting to interact with people. Unfortunately, that has forced our hand into attributes D. Luckily, we get a little bit of a boost from being a dwarf. Not really in places that help us out for what we're doing, but I like the thematics of it. We could, if you wanted to, you could easily switch that into human and attribute C, which gives you way more play into what you actually need to do. My podcast character is built that way. And then we are a filthy mundane because we're going to sell off our soul for wonderful chrome. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here onto my augments. I'm going to go down and I'm going to buy that control rig because that is what makes a rigger a rigger. We're going to start with just a level 1 because that lets us jump in. We'll come into whether or not we want to boost it depending upon how the rest of our money gets spent. Coming over here to our attributes, we're going to kind of even us out a little bit. We don't have a lot of points to spend to boost our attributes. We're probably going to get several of them from cyberware. We're going to start with some logic, some intuition. The brief description I got from the Twitch chat was living vicariously through your drones. So we're going to really shy away from the physical. Maybe he lives vicariously through his drones because he is physically disabled. Maybe he is paraplegic. It is a giant trope to be the wheelchair bound rigger, but tropes are pretty good, and you can always kind of get away with things. So we're gonna grab that. We're gonna come down here. One of the other things that was talked about in the Twitch chat was not having the chops to be a remote deck. Now, I like this. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab code block, and I'm gonna actually pick it for hack on the fly because he's not gonna be a decker. I do intend to give him the cracking group before people get cranky about things. Um, I am going to give him the cracking group, and I am going to give him a crappy cyber deck because you can't know that you don't have the chops for being a remote decker until you give it a shot. So that'll come in later. I'm going to use my last couple of points here to boost my logic to 6. We're going to operate under the idea that while you are jumped into a drone, you're going to use your mental stats and not any of your physical stats because that doesn't make any sense to me. However, as I talked about in my rigger base level video, talk with your GM, figure out how he wants to work this because riggers are kind of a mess as far as the rules go. My cat is freaking out in the background. I apologize if that comes through. Coming back over to qualities, a fairly standard setup is going to be something like jury rigger and gearhead because they are, for the lack of a better term, rigger qualities. They're the ones that are the most direct to deal with vehicles in a let you do new things way rather than some of the other stuff that you have to come through. We're going to come down here and see what kind of interesting quality. I don't want to kind of give him the gearhead / jury rigger as his only things because those are a little too on point. I will go with jury rigger because I like the idea of kind of making things work. Other opportunities we could get a biocompatibility as maybe it is happens to work out that he's a little lucky in that regard given his situation. We're going to come down here. Uh, Common sense is always a great quality to have, regardless of who it's on. Uh, no, golden screwdriver. Hmm. Uh, I like the idea of my cat being incredibly annoying right around the time I'm trying to do this kind of thing. Natural hardening is not necessarily a very good quality, but it is something that maybe is appropriate given his on the Matrix a lotness. Um, Come down here. Memory. Filer. Uh, no, 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 no. I'm sure this makes wonderful radio, but sorry. School education is pretty good. All right, that's plenty of qualities that we will then trim down to something that'll work out for. Get rid of this because I don't like this. All right, I like the way that looks now that we've gotten into a little bit of a trimming. So through the qualities, we have a guy who went to school, learned a bunch of things. That's probably where he got into drones and computery stuff. Maybe where he took a couple of software engineering classes. That's where his cracking group background is going to come from. And maybe it just didn't work out for him. He found out that that was not his forte, which is going to then support the code block aspect of things. However, he did find out that he was good at making stuff work that's not supposed to work. That'll be his jury rigger. Um, Profiler will kind of fit in with the antisocial type thing, where he is going to go and Google somebody's Facebook before he goes and talks to them because he doesn't really know going into a conversation without that kind of knowledge makes him feel um, disarmed, like he doesn't have that advantage on people. Um, See if I can find 5 points of negative qualities that are interesting without being grabby, because I feel like the code block and the paraplegic are kind of on that way. I may actually drop the code block off uh, to build something else as I reach for my drink. I do really like the flavor of it fitting that whole not cut out to be a Decker thing, but at the same time, it is a lot of karma for something he's not actually going to be doing at all, or at the very least, a lot. Um, I kind of looking at illness or what was the other one? Asthma or like piss and all of that other stuff, but that's not exactly uh, super nice to have. Well, we're gonna have something here to support his antisocialness. So we're gonna throw in. Did you call me dumb? Because while it's stated around character can't resist camouflaging insults into well-spoken words, it can also mechanically, uh, mechanically what it does is take a glitch and turns it into a critical glitch on any social test. Its fluff says that it does it via resisting camouflaging insults, whereas it can easily be saying the wrong things at the wrong time. imagine he's in a conversation, he rolls his dice, he gets that critical glitch, and throws out something that could actually be considered insulting because he's not used to dealing with people in the meat world. I'm gonna come down here, look these little bit, kind of want to. I'll just do it like I did for the positive ones because that's how things become things become things. Uh, no codes of honor, although it would be interesting, but he doesn't really fit in. But, I don't imagine it being combat paralysis. You can't actually hurt me. You can only destroy my mental bodies, not my physical bodies. That makes things a little bit more, shall we say, I don't want to say thrill seeker because that's a quality, but a little bit more reckless. Um, uh, throw distinctive style is an option. I never really liked it. It kind of doesn't have a lot of teeth to it, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, it is very thematic for a lot of characters. Illness is a possibility. Uh, Actually, I like that idea better than paraplegic because it's got more actual shenanigans. So I'm gonna instead of paraplegic, which is kind of a lot of points for something that's not really going to come up. I'm going to take incompetent to the athletics group for more or less the same reasons as being paraplegic. He get up and walk around, but he's not exactly a, let's say, physically active person. Being unable to run from folks is going to get him killed if he's out and about in the place. Being unable to jump with any kind of actual effectiveness or having trouble swimming is probably worse than what the paraplegic quality does for you. Um, so that is, to me, far more interesting than just I'm in a wheelchair. Coming down, he doesn't seem like the poor self control type, nor any prejudice things. Um, Quasimodo. Extreme that result in such genetic tampering, whether hereditary or accidental. Put it on there as an option. We'll see. Uh, is this one? Yeah, Scorched was the one I was looking for earlier. Given as he has found out he does not have the chops to be a proper decker, um, Scorched is a significantly more flavorful way of bringing that forward and having that on a mechanical thing as opposed to the less flavorful code block. Uh, I think that's what we have so far. He might be a sinner because sinners are everybody, no matter how much he wishes to hide it. Um, and maybe unsteady hands. We'll go through here. 75. Whoosh. I'll get rid of flashbacks. Rid of antipathy. Rid of code block because that's nowhere near as interesting. Style. Body plus body. Can't believe that on there. Get rid of Quasimodo. Scorched. Problems coping with neurological problems brought about by damage caused in some way by black ice, psychotropic ice, or beetles. Be short-term or long-term memory loss, unexpected blackouts, frequent migraines, and diminished senses. Whenever he enters VR or slots a beetle, the character must make a body plus willpower 4 test. Oof, that can be kind of rough. But good news, we're making a van guy, so he doesn't necessarily need to VR everything all the time. Uh, 15 over. So we're gonna get rid of electronic witness, illness, and that's it. All right. So now we have a guy who has a bit of the more interesting negative qualities to showcase what we're trying to showcase here with his antisocial aspect of things, rather than just getting things like uncouth, which is kind of bland. It's like, oh, I suck at social things. Bam, done. Doesn't really tell a big story. The Scorched with the soon to be lower dice pools in the Cracking group is going to kind of showcase that. Unsteady Hands is social things are very nerve wracking to him. The jitters, as they like to be called, may be caused by that kind of stuff. Um, is also another reason why he is doing the shadows thing from the safety of drones. So now coming into his skills, we're going to come down here to technical skills. We're going to give him the Cracking group of 2 and the Engineering group of 3. This is going to give him a decent background in building stuff and that kind of thing, with 3 being your average professional type person in the workplace. The Cracking group is there. It represents a bit of trying that kind of thing, but then finding out that he couldn't hack it. Coming down into physical skills, every runner needs perception. Perception is super, super good. We're going to get a couple of points of sneaking. I like to think in his case it's less sneaking, more staying out of the bully's eye. Some computer, some software, and some hardware. We have to take them as individual skills, unfortunately, as we don't have the group points to do it, but we're going to kind of do that. Come up here. Everybody needs some kind of self-defense skill, so we're going to give them pistols, because tasers are legal things, and that's something that normal people would have. And then we're going to start spending some of these points. We're going to boost up computer. We will specialize computer in. I guess we'll just do matrix perception, because that is a fairly normal thing. Hardware with a specialization in drones, because drones do take matrix damage. Boost our perception dice, pilot aircraft. Um, I am not going to put a specialization in there, because that is going to be kind of up to you guys and how you want to do things. Uh, tasers. Urban. Sometimes with specializations, I like to not be this is what the character has trained extensively hard in doing. Like, oh man, I spent all the time trying to sneak around the urban jungles of Seattle, that kind of stuff. It's more of this character. Man, I gotta figure out what's up this headset thing. So To finish out his skills, we're going to pick up the armor skill, grab a couple of points, and grab a specialization explosives. Less for its actual use there, more because I also added on the demolition skill to the things that he does. Um, he's going to be the audio guy. Not the audio guy, I'm sorry. He's going to be the demo guy. That might be why the team keeps him along. Like, there are certain things you want people of your team to do. Yeah, your face may have a horrible Novacoke problem, but in the instance of the job, he's the guy that can get you things you need to do the job. So we have our basic skills here. We're going to go over to augmentations. I'm going to go down to my BioWare, and I'm going to add a couple of things to go with his technical school. Like, we're going to get a cerebral booster and some mnemonic enhancers, which are fantastic pieces of cyberware that I could recommend almost everybody taking mnemonic enhancers. They're super OP. He's Let's make him Japanese. I like the idea of him being maybe a not necessarily a Renraku citizen because they are uh, super racist, but maybe he is a natural born Japanese person that has something to do with his social awkwardness. Like, he's now in Seattle, it is a different country. They don't generally speak his language, so he has a hard time interacting with people here. Uh, Other interesting cyberware we could give him would be an implanted comlink, which it's up to you on how much you like those. Attention coprocessors, math SPUs. Orientation system is super cheap and free dice for navigation and stuff, which I'm actually going to go in here to active skills and buy one rank with Karma of the outdoors group. It'll get us. It'll keep us from defaulting on things like navigation and tracking, which tracking can be used in an urban setting. You can use it to follow other cars and that kind of thing. So that is something of moderate interest there. Um, Further down in augmentations, I don't really think that there is other things this guy would really pick up. Uh, you could go for cyber ears to get an antenna and have that help out when you go to jump into things and reducing uh, noise penalties. As I struggle for words again. Nothing in cosmetic. He doesn't seem like a cyber limb kind of person. Maybe in the future he'll be a cyber limb kind of person when he goes to buy off like the incompetent athletics group. It's like, I got big meaty cyber arms, or if he gets um, through the same way, he could then get the buy off the unsteady hands. Uh, Come back over to knowledge skills. Let's find out which one is actually our discounted modify our quality. I think it's profession. Profession. It's professional things he knows. Matrix security. Throw a spec in that of corporations, because that is what he was going to school for. We're gonna go down here. We're gonna grab another one of um, Seattle area specialization park garages. That's actually an interest, uh, not a profession. Depending upon how your GM goes, he may not care that much about that kind of thing, but on the general, it should be more of an intuition based thing than a logic based thing, since we're boosting our logic up a bunch. Other professional based things he would know. Um, Architecture. I can't spell if it would save my life, so I'm just gonna have to Google that. Profession. A couple more points there. His uh, there are certain things that I wouldn't mind throwing on here for him. Um, Chemistry would be one. It's not got a lot of mechanical uses. I will throw it in here as a knowledge skill, not really intending to get um, a lot of use out of it because yeah, he may know what some chemicals are or what some chemicals do, but he's not going to be the guy that's mixing test tubes because he doesn't have the actual active skill. Some GMs may not want you to do that. Also going to give him mathematics because he's got some schooling, that whole SBU thing, some profession skill. Let me see. Let me come back to it. We'll see how the rest of his skills work out. Actually, I'm gonna go down here to his matrix security. I'm gonna change this. No. P2 feeds celebrities. Given his social awkwardness, he's gonna have the familiarity with your MySpace as I cough myself to death with P2, which is effectively uh, your Facebooks and MySpaces, live journals, and all those other terrible social media sites of the future. The celebrities will just be a little bit of a thematic throw on top of there. Uh, do I want any more augments? We got a whole pile of money left to spend, and I'm already skipping through a bunch of that stuff. So we might as well get a little bit more chrome. Why not? Coming down through here. Uh, what were his negatives again? Incompetent, scorched, and so let's get him a sim rig. Because if I was losing my memory all the time, I would want some way to back it up, and a sim rig will help with that. I am going to break a little bit of what I was talking about earlier with not spending all of my money because I wanted to throw a cyber deck on here because that is a lot of money and what that would cost. And then I'll grab a RCC. Courteous beside 5, 6, 5. No, Vulcan Leaf Sword is the one I want because it is cheaper and all that stuff. So at his point right now, we have 20 karma, 200,000 Nuyen, and a couple of knowledge skills still to spend on things. Um, gonna kind of break into what you're gonna want to buy from here out. You could go and get that second point control rig so that you are better at jumping into things. However, this is where it becomes a little bit more of you guys tweaking things on your ends. You can grab a couple of weapons, probably one real pistol and a taser. Probably not any high fashion armor, probably just an armor jacket. Uh, a good comlink, because he's going to want to do some slaving type stuff to get things going on. Your normal runner gear will be somewhere in there of extra phones, some med kits, trauma patches, that kind of thing. Oh, missing a huge point here. Contacts, who does he know? Well, that's going to be pretty easy. Jonathan Frank, college professor, I'm gonna make him loyalty 3. That will be the person that uh, our rigger had studied under when he was in class. It's gonna Actual shadow uses aren't gonna be really high for him. He will probably, however, let you come onto campus and use their facilities for studying. Maybe it can just be fluffed out as a trainer with your GM for other raising your cracking group, doing some of your hardware software stuff. Which I actually didn't. Oh, I did grab software. Let me sneak a point or two into that. Data bombs. All right, there we go. Feel a little better about that now. Dependent upon how cranky your GM wants to be, maybe he's not like your standard professor. Maybe he works the automotive shop at the school. Um, kind of work that out on your own. He will need. Let's go scrapper. Works at a junkyard. Uh, we're gonna lower his connection because can't really do a whole lot for you. However, he's one of the few people that our rigger can actually talk to as almost an equal. He's gonna go there. He's gonna talk with parts. Uh, Maybe this is where he gets a lot of the things to jury rig his stuff. Maybe this is where he just goes to not have to talk to people, but maybe interact with the mechanics and stuff like that. Maybe he has a job here fixing stuff. Who knows? Um, I actually kind of like the idea of his criminal connection being. Let's go. Well, we made him Japanese. Let's go Yakuza. Uh, Yakuza lieutenant who. How much got 7 karma still to spend? I don't know. I'm not going to give him a name because I'm terrible with names. Perhaps this Yakuza lieutenant is his criminal connection. It is going to be the guy who maybe not necessarily he knows, perhaps more along the lines of you're going to come in and do this work for me because I have done something in your past to help you out. So when I have a guy doing criminal stuff, I know you have a skill in uh, drones, driving, that kind of thing. I'm gonna use that pressure on you, and because our guy is socially awkward, he's gonna fold to that kind of social pressure because the Yakuza is a big group, and being a Japanese dwarf, you're not gonna get in the Renraku side of things, but at least the Yakuza people, they'll treat you with a bit of that respect because you are Japanese. Granted, you're gonna get slightly racist because you're not human, but at the same time, you're gonna you're gonna have somebody there who at least treats you like you're worthwhile, even if he, perhaps unknown to our character, is just manipulating you. Uh, so let's go over here into his knowledge skills. Let's pick up a little organized crime with a use a specialty because that's once again really all he's had a lot of exposure to. Let me get one more profession rated skill in here or two. Um, let's see. Let's see. Professions. You know, I'll just leave that to you guys. Um, at the moment of this right here, there's another 5 karma you can spend on any number of things. A couple other knowledge skills. Another skill group is a great point. Some more contacts wouldn't be bad. When you get towards the end, it might be more money. Um, from here, I would pick up some fly spy drones because they are great for doing recon and things to help out. You're going to need to pick up some autosofts, probably to run from your RCC to share them out to your drones. Some some meat and potatoes kind of drone, either a Doberman or a Roto drone, or however you want to go from there. You can pick up like a Steel Lynx to be your on the boots on the ground kind of heavy drone, even though they're not very heavy. You will probably grab a van to have all of this stuff kind of carried around. Maybe throw a shop in the back of it. Maybe grab an anthro drone so that he can interact with the world through that rather than his body that he does not like or is not a fan of actually being in some place where he could be punched as opposed to just punching his drone. Fake sins, that kind of thing. Uh, Plenty of Nuyen left to spend that kind of stuff on, but I'd be really curious to see where you guys take it from here. If you guys have questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section, as I will upload this on YouTube later, or actually already have if you are currently watching this on YouTube. Thank you guys for coming around. I'm really curious to see how this continues to go, and I will see you guys around.